Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take those familiar, often vague pieces of life advice and really drill down into the surprising mechanics that make them work.
And today we're tackling a big one.
Oh, a huge one. It's a phrase everyone has heard, everyone has probably said, just trust your gut.
It's the ultimate cliche, isn't it? It sounds like permission to be lazy or, maybe even a little irrational.
Right, like you're just throwing logic out the window.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But when you examine high-stakes decision-making, particularly in domains where, like, milliseconds matter, trusting your gut is anything but vague. It's a highly sophisticated, rapid data synthesis tool.
And that's exactly where our source material comes in today. We're drawing from the experience of a former professional cricketer and coach.
Right, someone who operated in these incredibly high-pressure environments.
You think about the massive global pressure of T20 leagues, where the difference between success and failure is often the speed and the quality of just one single decision.
And for him, learning about the conscious versus the unconscious mind wasn't just, some interesting philosophy.
No, not at all. It literally transformed his performance and late in his career, too, which is fascinating.
So this deep dive, therefore, is not really about the philosophy of intuition. It's more about the engineering of it.
The engineering of it. I love that. So what's our mission today?
Our mission is threefold. First, we need to precisely define what gut feel actually is and establish it as the output of the unconscious mind.
Okay.
Second, we have to examine the empirical proof from the source, those real-world examples that validate its accuracy, which, and this is a bold claim, the source says runs at 99%.
99. Wow. Okay, and the third part?
And third, we have to unpack the critical mental framework. This is the how-to. It's about the discipline of commitment and the resistance to doubt that's required to fully utilize this decision-making superpower.
And we really have to set up the foundation immediately because everything hinges on this contrast between the two main operating systems in our brain.
That's it.
So on one side, you have the conscious mind. This is the slow, deliberate, data-driven entity.
The spreadsheet part of the brain.
Exactly. It's the part of us that requires articulation, that builds the business case, that runs the numbers. It excels at linear, step-by-step logic.
And then you have the unconscious mind. And you can think of it as the ultimate experiential database. It's lightning fast, it's intuitive, and most critically, it has absorbed every single piece of contextual data you have ever encountered.
Since birth.
Every single piece. It's the operating system running continuously under the hood, processing everything from the look on a competitor's face to the subtle change in humidity in the air.
So what we're going to explore is why, when true speed and reliability are needed, you absolutely want to switch from that slow spreadsheet analysis
to trusting the instantaneous feedback loop of that immense internal database.
Let's start with section 1, and we can call this Decoding the Internal Computer. To really appreciate the unconscious mind, I think we first need to acknowledge what the conscious mind is actually good at. Because it's not useless, right? It's just specialized.
That's a great point. The conscious mind is the designated, deliberate problem solver. It's excellent at focusing energy on a specific task and achieving what we might call articulable logic.
Articulable logic. So it can explain its work.
Precisely. If we stick with the cricket analogy for a moment, the conscious mind is the one meticulously analyzing the video footage of a batsman, poring over the statistics.
All the numbers. Average score against a specific bowler where they hit most often, which balls they ducked.
The whole 9 yards,
Yeah.
all of it, to logically determine the optimal area to deliver the next ball. It is meticulous, analytical, and logical.
It's the director of the operation.
But it's slow.
And crucially, it requires that clear sequence, A plus B equals C. If you ask the conscious mind, why did you make that choice, it can provide you a detailed, itemized report.
But if you have 10 seconds to make $1 million decision,
that whole process fails. It's too slow. And that's where we transition to the unconscious mind, which the source describes as an internal computer holding a deep, deep reservoir of knowledge and feelings.
And we really need to spend some time here to grasp the scale of this. The sheer scope of the unconscious mind is almost impossible for our conscious minds to even comprehend.
It's just too vast.
It is. The source emphasizes that every piece of sensory data, everything we have ever seen, smelled, heard, touched, or felt, is initially registered by the conscious mind, yes, but then it's filed away and stored deep within the unconscious database.
So we're not just talking about storing simple facts like, the score of a match from last year.
No, not at all.
We are talking about storing the texture of experience, the feel of the bat on a cold morning, the specific visual cue of a batter's subtle weight shift before they execute a pull shot,
The anxiety of failure.
the surge of confidence after a win. All of these nuances are the contextual data points that the conscious spreadsheet mind it simply ignores them.
That's the critical distinction.
Yeah.
Facts versus texture. The conscious mind records that a specific delivery led to a wicket. Full stop.
Okay.
The unconscious mind records the entire environment. The slight dampness on the pitch, the angle of the sunlight, the precise feeling of your wrist position during that successful delivery, and the resulting feeling of confidence that came from it.
So it's the full picture.
All of that texture is constantly being absorbed.
And the truly mind-blowing part of this is the automatic processing. We're accustomed to our computers needing to be commanded to process data. You have to click the button.
You have to run the program.
Exactly. But this internal computer, our unconscious mind, is never offline.
That's right. It is a true parallel processor. We are not consciously aware of it, but it's constantly operating in the background without rest, analyzing this vast store of information.
Okay, so let's go back to the bowler. He's at the top of his run-up, needing to choose the right delivery.
Right. While his conscious mind might be worrying about the captain's instructions or the crowd, the unconscious is running a billion historical simulations. Instantly.
A billion.
I mean, metaphorically. It analyzes every relevant past event related to the current situation, every successful and failed ball ever bowled to this type of player, filtered through the real-time conditions of that exact moment.
So if the conscious mind is, say, a slow, methodical accountant calculating next year's budget based on last quarter's numbers, the unconscious mind is a supercomputer running millions of what-if scenarios based on 20 years of global economic, political, and historical data and presenting the one optimal solution right now.
Precisely. And because it analyzes all of these variables, it achieves what the source calls the gaining of insight. It's not a logical sequence you can write down on a piece of paper.
It's a sudden answer.
It emerges fully formed.
And how does that answer actually appear? The source says the gut tells us something. It manifests as intuition.
Yes, but here is the critical difference between the unconscious answer and the conscious answer. We often cannot articulate why we came to this conclusion.
The conscious mind demands proof and a report.
But the unconscious mind just says, this is correct. It simply feels right. There's no justification needed, just a feeling of certainty.
The output is a feeling, then, an undeniable conviction that bypasses that slow, time-consuming spreadsheet analysis.
It achieves superior efficiency by circumventing the need for articulation. And this is why the source introduces this concept as a superpower, claiming the conclusion reached via gut feel is right approximately 99% of the time.
Okay, I have to stop you there. That 99% figure is staggering. As a listener, that sounds incredibly bold. How can we trust that number? Isn't that just a convenient, retrospective assessment? Oh, it worked out, so my gut must have been right.
And that skepticism is totally warranted. It's a healthy skepticism. But the source emphasizes that the reliability comes from the completeness of the data set.
The completeness?
Yes, the conscious mind is restricted to the data it can actively recall and manipulate logically. It's a tiny fraction of what you actually know.
Right.
The unconscious mind, however, is accessing the totality of your experience, including all the painful failures and subtle corrections you learned, but never consciously filed away.
Ah, so it's learned from the mistakes, too.
Especially the mistakes. When that entire database, filtered by the current live environmental input, produces an optimized solution, it is highly likely to be correct. It's the ultimate form of pattern recognition, just operating at a scale and speed we literally can't comprehend.
And it's fascinating that the author connects this realization back to Malcolm Gladwell's book, Blink. I remember reading that.
Me too.
The author found Blink captivating because it described this kind of rapid instinct, but he says he only truly understood the mechanism, the conscious versus unconscious framework afterward.
And that's a crucial distinction, isn't it? Blink tells us that fast, accurate decision-making exists. It observes the phenomenon.
It describes the what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But understanding the roles of the conscious versus the unconscious mind provides the practical how. It gives you a mechanism you can train yourself to access, rather than just hoping instinct shows up on a good day.
It moves it from observation to implementation.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And that implementation is exactly what led to his dramatic career transformation, which brings us to the real proof.
Okay, if the theory holds that the unconscious mind provides a 99% reliable solution, we need to see it in action. Let's pivot to section 2, the 99% rule. We're moving from theory to the real-world pressures of professional sport.
Right, and we have to set the stage first. We're talking about high-level, global T20 leagues. These are rapid-fire, high-stakes environments.
Not a quiet game of chess?
Not at all. Decisions are made under immense pressure in front of huge crowds with millions of dollars in reputations riding on every single ball. There's no timeout to review the data.
The decision needs to be instant and correct.
And this is where the bowling transformation anecdote becomes the perfect litmus test for decision superiority.
So paint the picture for us. Imagine the author, a professional bowler, standing at the top of his run-up.
He has just a few seconds. That's it, a few seconds to select the single best ball to bowl to the batter standing 22 yards away.
Now, before this realization, this new framework, how did he approach it?
He describes attempting to use the slow, conscious path. He would stand there, consciously attempting to recall every previous ball he'd bowled to that specific batter.
Or even just that type of batter.
Right. Across his entire decade-plus career. He'd try to recall the context. Was it a good delivery? What was the outcome? What were the conditions that day?
And the mental effort required, even for the most seasoned professional, sounds paralyzing.
It is. The source states quite plainly that this deliberate conscious process could take hours.
Hours for a decision you need to make in seconds.
The sheer volume of data recall and analytical processing is impossible to manage in the 10 seconds allowed between deliveries. The result, inevitably, was confusion, hesitation, and often a poorly executed ball.
Okay, so that's the before. What was the breakthrough?
The breakthrough was entirely mental. It was learning to put the conscious mind on neutral.
On neutral. What does that actually mean?
The author describes it as a deliberate act of quietude, of stepping aside mentally and allowing space for the right feeling to surface.
So you have to consciously choose to be quiet.
Exactly. Once the conscious mind stopped trying to manage the spreadsheet, the internal computer, the unconscious mind, which had automatically processed every relevant delivery since he was a kid, provided the answer.
And this wasn't delivered as a complex calculation like 42% chance of success with this delivery.
No, not at all. It was delivered as a simple, powerful conviction. This is the ball.
Just a feeling of rightness.
Maybe it was the wide Yorker. Maybe it was the slower ball that day. The decision was instant, and it required zero excessive mental energy.
And here's the proof in the pudding, right? The tangible results that demonstrate this shift wasn't just subjective. It wasn't just him feeling better.
Absolutely. The author states that this change in decision-making, and this is key, not a sudden improvement in physical skill, which is pretty unlikely at age 34.
Right, he's not suddenly bowling faster.
No. This change led to a dramatic spike in his success. He went from bowling pretty well to having his most successful year with the ball ever.
And the numbers are undeniable. This shift culminated in his best ever IPL returns in 2016. He took 20 wickets and finished third on the leading wicket takers list.
And he's competing against players who are 10 years younger than him, operating at the absolute peak of the sport.
The physical skill was the same, but the decision quality was radically superior.
It's the perfect case study. If you switch from a, say, 50% accurate guess made under pressure by an overwhelmed conscious mind to a 99% accurate solution delivered effortlessly by the unconscious database, your success rate is going to skyrocket.
It has to.
But the author is very clear on this point. The process is 2 steps. The gut delivers the 99% accurate choice.
Fine.
The individual must then commit 100% to the technical execution of that ball.
That makes perfect sense. A brilliant decision executed with 50% doubt is still a failure.
Absolutely. The decision informs the action, and the conviction ensures the optimal outcome. The commitment is the bridge that turns the potential of the 99% accurate decision into a high probability of success in reality.
Okay, let's pivot to the batting examples because I think they show the subtlety of the unconscious mind. It's not just accessing historical data, it's running a real-time diagnostic on the current environment, which the conscious mind just misses.
Yes, this first scenario involves the Sri Lankan all-rounder, Thisara Perera.
A well-known player.
A very dangerous player. But historically, Perera was considered a favorable matchup for the author.
What made it favorable?
His pace was nice to hit, his trajectory was a bit flatter, and critically, his execution often suffered under pressure. So the conscious historical file says, take him down.
The spreadsheet says, attack.
And the intuitive assessment usually confirmed this. The gut would say, I feel I can line him up today, and the results were great.
But the crucial learning came on those occasional days when the environment was subtly different.
Exactly. Maybe the pitch had dried out a little, the pace of the ball was suddenly better than usual, or the light had shifted, making it harder for the batter to pick up the seam.
These tiny variables.
The conscious mind might just register, I'm a little uncomfortable, but the historical data, the spreadsheet, is screaming, go.
And that's the conflict.
But the unconscious computer detects the subtle deviation from the norm. It reads the texture of the environment. The gut sends a soft but firm warning, hold back.
And the author describes the failure point as being when he let his ego or, his emotional history override that subtle internal warning.
The thought process was, I normally take him down, so I must do it today, overriding the feeling that something felt a little different.
And what was the outcome?
Always bad. A poor shot, an easy out. This illustrates that the 99% rule isn't about rigid adherence to past success. It's about superior present moment diagnostics.
So the unconscious mind incorporates these micro adjustments, the exact angle of the seam, the pitch condition, that are too transient or complex for the conscious mind to register and quantify in time.
It's the difference between relying on last year's weather average versus recognizing a sudden, localized microstorm happening right now. The unconscious mind provides the immediate contextual update. It shows the danger of letting the conscious mind rely solely on outdated or average historical data.
Okay, now let's flip that for the second batting scenario. Dealing with historically difficult bowlers.
Nemesis.
Exactly. These are the bowlers who have, over years, consistently exposed the author's weaknesses.
Consciously, the file on this bowler is danger, pure and simple. The history is painful, characterized by wickets lost and runs stalled.
So the conscious mind's default instruction is defense, survival, or, careful mitigation of risk.
Don't get out.
But then, on rare occasions, the gut flashes a surprising, counterintuitive green light.
All of a sudden, the internal computer says, today, I can definitely line this guy up.
Why? What would have changed?
Well, who knows? Maybe the bowler is carrying a slight injury. Maybe their run-up momentum is off by a few degrees, or perhaps the conditions perfectly neutralize their usual threat. Something is different.
So the gut, having processed this subtle shift in the bowler's rhythm or the pitch's characteristics, signals a temporary massive advantage.
But because the conscious mind is paralyzed by years of negative historical data, it fights back.
Of course it does.
The internal monologue becomes, no, this guy normally gets me out. I must be imagining this opportunity. This is a trap.
And by not trusting that unexpected positive insight, the author missed the window. He failed to capitalize on the brief shift in the situation to score freely and shift the momentum of the game.
His conscious mind's ingrained fear, which was based on historical weakness, vetoed a 99% accurate present moment opportunity.
So the lesson here is profound. The unconscious mind is superior not only at warning you when a historical advantage has temporarily disappeared,
but also at signaling a new temporary advantage against a historically difficult opponent. It prioritizes the now over the average.
the evidence is compelling. The unconscious mind is an accurate, high-speed decision engine. But as we saw, getting the right answer is only half the battle.
Right.
If you get the 99% accurate answer but you fail to execute, you still lose. That brings us to Section 3. The mental framework, the commitment and the resistance required to succeed.
This is perhaps the most practical takeaway for anyone listening, even if you're not a professional athlete.
Yeah.
The source makes it absolutely clear. Access is vital, but full utilization requires a specific mental structure centered on unwavering commitment and absolute insulation from doubt.
So the core rule is commitment. Once that right decision is felt, that inner voice says, this is the ball, or, this is the business strategy, the individual must commit 100%.
No hedging, no reservation. This ensures the optimal outcome.
And this commitment is rooted in the source of authority, which is deeply personal. Why is the individual's gut feel supreme in that moment?
Because only you possess that precise reservoir of experience. Only the bowler, through their deep, sometimes painful experiences of pitching and bowling since childhood, the sheer physical repetition and emotional consequence of failure, knows exactly what the right decision is at that critical moment.
That experiential database is completely unique. No coach, no statistician, no teammate has lived that same sequence of successes and failures.
Or factored in the exact condition of the bowler's body right now, or the subtle nuance of the pitch that only he can feel.
And this leads the author, who is now a coach, to teach a core imperative to his players.
Which is, Trust your gut and don't let anyone cloud your judgment. You are the ultimate authority in that moment because you are the only one who has processed every piece of relevant data, conscious and unconscious.
This principle immediately raises a red flag regarding external influence, especially in a team environment. Let's talk about the danger of the captain's role in cricket, which, it translates directly to leadership dynamics in any high-stakes organization.
Absolutely. A captain or a manager's job is to lead, but they must be extremely mindful of when to lead and when to trust. They need to be hyper-aware of when to direct a bowler, say, when the bowler is clearly confused or struggling,
And when to simply leave them alone.
to allow that gut feel power to operate.
So if the captain directs the bowler to execute a specific delivery that is different from what the bowler is feeling, it creates internal friction.
And that external instruction has just overridden the 99% accurate decision delivered by the bowler's own internal computer.
And that friction is the death of performance.
It is. If you swap a 99% accurate self-generated plan for, say, a 70% accurate suggestion from an external party, you have dramatically undermined your potential for success, regardless of the commander's seniority.
So what's the solution? Communication.
Communication is key. The bowler or the team member needs to communicate that trust. I have the answer, Captain. Trust me to execute it. This allows for 100% commitment to the gut feel unless active guidance is genuinely needed because the individual is lost.
Here is where the lesson gets truly poignant and personal. The teammate trap, illustrated by this fantastic A.B. de Villiers anecdote. This shows that even well-meaning advice can derail peak performance by planting a seed of doubt.
And this specific incident was a powerful, painful lesson in the consequences of hesitation. The scenario was critical. They were chasing a total, the momentum was shaky, and the author felt personally sluggish.
Not a great combination.
No. But then, the perfect matchup arrived. A bowler they absolutely knew they could target and take down. The gut decision was loud and clear. Attack now, go hard.
So the author was mentally preparing for maximum commitment, 100%.
He was. But as he settled at the crease, A.B. de Villiers, who the author emphasizes was one of the greatest players and nicest guys in the game, offered advice from the non-striker's end.
What did he say?
He said, let's just take this game a little deeper. You don't need to take this guy on right now.
Oh, that's tough, because that external voice is coming from a highly respected source, someone you trust and admire.
It immediately triggered internal conflict. The author wasn't fighting bad advice. He was fighting the need to decide whose advice was superior.
The self-questioning started instantly.
Was my gut right? Should I go hard, or should I listen to the legend standing next to me?
This introduced the toxic element, confusion. The author felt the immediate fight against his internal conviction.
You can just imagine the internal monologue. You should go, no, wait, AB said I should hold back and take it deeper. My gut says attack, but AB's spreadsheet says wait.
And confusion in the mind, especially in moments requiring instantaneous execution, leads to bad outcomes.
The consequence was predictable. The author went through with a shot, but it was a half-committed shot. He was neither fully attacking nor fully defending. He was stuck in that agonizing middle ground of doubt.
And he got out.
He got out. And walking off the field, the realization hit with powerful clarity. Why didn't I just trust what I felt?
The core decision, the 99% accurate assessment delivered by his unconscious mind, was correct. But the external doubt had destroyed the 100% conviction needed for proper execution.
This is such a crucial lesson for team dynamics beyond the field. If you see a teammate or a colleague who is clearly operating in that zone of conviction, who is tapping into their superpower, be incredibly careful about interrupting their process.
Because if they feel ready, they are ready.
They are ready because their internal data is superior to any external suggestion you could possibly offer.
So it stresses a collective responsibility. The ultimate performance state requires that mental commitment to be absolute. Planting a seed of doubt, even with the best intentions, impacts the ability to execute.
Regardless of whether the doubt was tactically sound or not, the goal is maximize performance. And maximize performance requires unshakable belief in the chosen action.
We have covered so much ground today, fundamentally reframing gut feel from, a lucky hunch into a complex, high-speed information synthesis system rooted in our deepest experiences.
I think this deep dive offers a true framework for superior decision-making, and it's applicable far beyond the cricket pitch.
So let's try to consolidate this. What are the key takeaways?
Let's consolidate the three core lessons we extracted from the author's transformative journey. First, gut feel is genuinely a decision-making superpower. It is the output of the unconscious mind's automatic, deep processing of a lifetime of experience, and it delivers an answer superior to slow, conscious analysis in real time.
Second, once that right decision is felt, once your internal computer delivers the 99% accurate answer, commitment must be 100%.
The commitment ensures the optimal technical execution. Half commitment is the fatal flaw, regardless of the decision quality.
And third,
And third, you must protect the sanctity of that decision. Do not allow any outside influences, managers, teammates, or, most corrosive of all, self-doubt based on historical conscious fear to get in the way of that gut feel process.
protect the purity of that decision and the conviction required to execute it flawlessly.
That's it in a nutshell.
To bring this full circle back to the moment of transformation, let's revisit the bowling example. The author mentioned the technique of deliberately putting the conscious mind on neutral.
That quiet state that allows space for the answer to appear.
Right. In a high-pressure athletic environment, that moment of stillness might be just before the run-up begins. A deep breath.
But for you, the listener, facing complex, non-athletic decisions, a major career switch, investing in a new venture, or navigating a difficult personal choice, how do you deliberately achieve that neutral mental space?
It's a real challenge. We live in an information-saturated world where the conscious mind is constantly being fed data, constantly being demanded to analyze, articulate, and justify everything.
So if the best, most optimized answers, the 99% accurate ones, come when we allow our supercomputer, the unconscious mind, the space to deliver its answer.
Then the most important skill we can cultivate might just be stopping.
The final provocative thought we want to leave you with is this. In your modern, hectic life, what deliberate practices can you use? Whether it's disciplined solitude, deep meditation, or simply stepping away from the data stream in your phone for a crucial hour to achieve that neutral mental space.
The answer to your most complex challenge is already in your experiential database. You just have to learn how to turn down the volume of the conscious world so your superpower can finally speak up.